Now it came to pass in the days when judges ruled that there was a famine in the land. And a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to dwell in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. The name of the man was Elimelech. The name of his wife was Naomi. And the names of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion. And they went to the country of Moab and remained there. Then Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died. Oh, I'm so sorry. And she was left and her 2 sons. Now they took wives of the women of Moab. The name of the one was Orpah, and the name of the other was Ruth. And they dwelt there about 10 years. Then both Mahlon and Chilion also died. No, now I'm in big trouble. So the woman survived her 2 sons and her husband. The police are still on the lookout for the man who ran down 2 brothers and their father. The family is now offering a reward of the choice of 3 widows in marriage to the person who can identify the man in this police sketch. This police sketch is done of the person who, according to witnesses, hit and killed the 3 people involved. This person is considered dangerous and mentally unstable. If you know anything about this man, please call 1-800-555-HELP. In other news, the mayor of Bethlehem of Judah has stated that the drought is officially over. People who have left during times of drought are encouraged to return to their homes. The latest polls reveal that 37%
Oh, girls, isn't that exciting? There's food again in Israel. Orpah, you can eat again and gain some weight again. Isn't this great? Let's go back.
So, while they're going back to Bethlehem, Ruth realizes that Bethlehem holds no future for her boys' wives. She tells them to go back home, but they want to go with her. She reminds them that she has no other sons for them to marry in order to continue the names of their dead husbands. She insists they go back home. Orpah goes back.
So long it's been good to know you. So long it's been good.
But Ruth stays with her and tells her that Naomi's people will be her people now, and Naomi's God will be her God now. Naomi accepts this dedication. Ruth is leaving any dreams of her own. Ruth is committing herself to a life of servitude. Now the 2 of them came into Bethlehem, and as they entered into the city, people were all excited about them and said, "Hey, isn't this Naomi?" But she said, "Don't call me Naomi. Call me Mara. For the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me. I went out full, and the Lord has brought me back home empty. Why do you call me Naomi, since the Lord has testified against me, and the Almighty has afflicted me?" Because they were poor and had no one to take care of them, Ruth went into a local field to pick up whatever remained after the harvesters had done their work. And it just so happened that she began to work in a field that belonged to a relative of Naomi's husband. His name was Boaz. When Boaz learned who she was, he told his workers to leave a lot of barley behind, so that she could take some home. He also told his workers to hold back from molesting her in any way and let her eat and drink with them. At the end of the first day, Ruth brought home a good amount of food for Naomi. Noting that Boaz was a relative, Naomi was elated with the events of the day. Naomi told her to stay in that field until the end of the harvest. Naomi makes plans to help Ruth get herself a husband so that she can have a child in the name of her dead husband. Ruth is to go by the cover of night and uncover Boaz's feet while he's on the threshing floor asleep. No, the threshing floor. Okay, Ruth obeys, and when Boaz wakes up, he's scared. Ruth tells him to do his duty and give her a baby. Boaz commends her for her kindness for putting duty above her own desires, for after all, he is rather old. But there was one who was a closer relative to her husband than he was. He first must be given the opportunity to raise a child on the behalf of Ruth's dead husband. Back at home, Naomi tells Ruth that Boaz will do exactly what he says.
All right, let's pick it together. Oh, yeah.
The next day, Boaz goes to the gate of the city where judges and where leaders sit, and where men gather to discuss the daily issues. He waits until his relative comes by, and he calls him over. He also takes 10 elders of the city to listen into the conversation. He tells his relative that Naomi has some land for sale, and it is the relative's right to buy it first. But upon learning that he would have to take Ruth with the land, the relative decides not to buy. So in the presence of the 10 elders, he gives his shoe to Boaz, and Boaz buys the land and accepts the responsibility for Ruth as well. The people bless Boaz. They hope and pray that in Bethlehem he and his offspring will become as fruitful and as famous as Pharez, who was born to Tamar. Now, for those of you who do not know, Tamar likewise went to a relative in order to have a child in the name of her dead husband. In Israel, this process is called redemption. Later, Ruth gives birth to a son, and the women of the city come to Naomi and bless her. And they say to her that her Ruth is better than 10 sons. Naomi takes the child as her own, and the women and her neighbors, they call the child Obed, which means serving. Now Boaz was the father of Obed, and Obed was the father of Jesse, and Jesse, he was the father of David.